Today, Bitcoin falls ahead of the Fed's final scheduled rate decision of 2024. Ohio introduces a bill to allow for a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And Congressman French Hill shares his priorities for crypto rulemaking as the incoming House Financial Services Committee chair. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Brandon Gomez. Crypto markets were in the red this morning as investors waited on the Fed's final scheduled rate decision of 2024. As of noon Eastern, Bitcoin dropped 2.7% to the $104,000 level. Ether lost 2% and was trading at $3,871, and Solana dropped nearly 5% to $216. For the latest prices following the Fed's rate cut, you can head over to CNBC.com. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. The industry is watching what crypto legislations might move forward under the next administration. A top priority among crypto-focused lawmakers and some in the industry is stablecoins. Joining CNBC's Squawk Box this morning was Jeremy Allaire of Circle, the issuer of USDC, to talk about how he hopes to see the new regulatory environment affect stablecoins.
There is not yet a federal law that defines dollar stablecoins as legal electronic money in the U.S. financial system. Once we have that, then every company in the world, every public corporation, every financial institution all around the world will be able to treat this as digital cash, use it as collateral, use it to settle transactions. Its ability to be used on a mass scale in society grows dramatically.
When asked about whether crypto poses a threat to the US dollar, he argued for why he believes mass exports of dollar-backed stablecoins would instead be beneficial for dollar competitiveness.
While the dollar is the reserve currency, there are lots of places in the world that don't want the dollar to be that currency. And so first we need full reserve digital dollars, like stablecoins, to become a mass export product of the United States. And if there's going to be a major currency of the internet, make sure it's a digital dollar.
By market cap, the stablecoin space is currently dominated by Tether, and Circle's USDC sits in second place, though competition is growing as firms like PayPal and just this week Ripple have issued their own dollar-backed stablecoins. Next, more states are following the trend of pursuing Bitcoin reserves. Yesterday, Republican State Representative Derek Marin of Ohio introduced a bill aiming to authorize the state treasurer to buy Bitcoin. In a statement, Marin said the US dollar is being rapidly devalued and that Ohio must embrace tech and protect tax dollars from eroding. This follows similar efforts seen from Texas and Pennsylvania in recent weeks. This also comes amid discussions around a national Bitcoin stockpile, an idea President-elect Trump campaigned on. All right, let's head down to DC for our main story. The Blockchain Association held its annual policy summit this week, and Crypto World's Tanea McKeel was there to hear from a number of lawmakers and regulators. French Hill is a Republican congressman from Arkansas. He's also the incoming chair of the House Financial Services Committee, which will play a key role in pushing forward crypto legislation next year. Tanea asked him about his priorities for crypto rulemaking and his opinion on a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Well, Congressman, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
You have said on our air recently that crypto is one of your top priorities for 2025. And within crypto, what are your top priorities, your top three priorities for the industry?
Right. Well, two principal ones. One is that we get a dollar-backed stablecoin authorization in federal law, that we set the rules of the road of how to have a dollar-backed stablecoin here used in America, with the right auditing, the right transparency, the right security features to it, because I think the world will gravitate to that. We've already seen outside the United States the powerful use of dollar-backed stablecoins. Think about how powerful that would be if it were under the laws of the United States in our economy. Secondly is market structure for digital assets. This was, I think, a critical component. It's the source of a lot of litigation. It's a support, the lack of it is a contributor to the fact that coders are moving offshore, companies are moving projects offshore, and investment is leaving the United States. So a market structure for digital assets lays out the rules of the road. What's a tokenized commodity versus what's covered by the securities laws? It makes clear who can be a broker, who can be a custodian, how is an exchange there, how are these tokens traded, and so I think that's a really important feature. Those are the top two priorities. A third might be that we explore how tokenization of real-world assets and NFTs fit in the economy generally, and what's the general view about that from a federal point of view. So that's the outlook, I think, for the early 119th Congress.
I want to go back to what you said about stablecoins, and then I want to hit market structure for a second. We had Michael Saylor, the chairman and founder of MicroStrategy, on our air yesterday, and he said that normalizing stablecoins would be the best thing that the U.S. could do for the dollar. I think he was addressing, the idea that the performance in Bitcoin that we've seen recently could potentially somehow threaten the global role of the dollar, and he was saying no. And I think likely speaking to the fact that these stablecoin issuers do hold cash and short-term government securities on their reserves. But this idea that it would be the best thing for the U.S. dollar, what do you say to that?
I think it is helpful to the primacy of the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. But if you have a dollar-backed stablecoin, again, as I say, with rules and transparency inside the laws of the United States, overseen by officials in the United States, it produces not only the confidence of the dollar, but it produces the confidence of the system. Right now, if you're using a dollar-backed stablecoin outside the U.S., you may or may not have transparency. You may or may not know that it's going to be there tomorrow. This gives, I think, primacy to the reserve currency status, but also permanence and trustworthiness that stablecoin itself is inside a global regime that's trustworthy.
What's your outlook for that legislation? Is there a bill that you're particularly interested in, and how soon into 2025 do you think that we could see something?
Well, on the subject of stablecoins, we did a lot of work in the last two Congresses on that. I think you'll see House Republicans, and it will probably have bipartisan support, will reintroduce a stablecoin legislation in the House. We'll also reintroduce a market structure bill in the House. And in this Congress, we're going to have more support from the Senate. This is a big difference between the past Congress and the future. We have the Trump administration that has set this as a goal, that they want a market structure bill. They support a dollar-backed stable coin for the reasons that we've outlined. And in the Senate, we see leadership and interest from Chairman to-be Tim Scott for banking and Chairman to-be John Bozeman from my state of Arkansas in the Ag Committee.
And what is your sort of outlook for the stablecoin sector as a whole? We talk about a dollar-backed stablecoin, and you mentioned the tokenization of real-world assets, and of course, stablecoins are a big part of that. And there are many institutions that have become interested in this space who are kind of worried about the concentration in the market. You have one stablecoin, Tether, that dominates 70%. USDC follows 20%, and there is no shortage of names who have come out in the past few months, and saying we are launching a stablecoin imminently. Ripple did so just this week. Do you think that the market for stablecoins is getting crowded? Are you following that?
Again, if we have the rules of the road that are in the U.S. and people conforming to those, these non-U.S. stablecoin issuers don't currently meet the standard that we have in our bill. I think that strengthens it, and I think it allows a bank and a non-bank issuer to compete. I think you'll have more competition in that particularly cross-border use of a dollar-backed stablecoin. And I think you'll see partnerships between companies that are issuing those, bank and non-bank, in the U.S. under U.S. laws, outside the U.S. and other jurisdictions. And it's a way to extend the reserve currency status, but it's also a new competition source, and particularly, I think, cross-border commercial payments mostly, but as we've seen with Tether in markets where they have unreliable currencies or very poor banking systems or dysfunctional banking systems. We've seen it obviously at the retail in a smartphone application for payment with a dollar-backed stablecoin. In a big developed country like ours, I think you'll see it more in a commercial blockchain application initially, but that's the exciting thing about innovation in this space.
I want to talk about Bitcoin for a sec. You mentioned market structure, which of course would say what falls to the CFTC and what falls to the SEC. Bitcoin's interesting because that one has largely been de-risked. I think many people can agree on that. So, where does Bitcoin itself fall in your priorities? Is there anything about Bitcoin that we need to be concerned about?
I think
going
so.
forward?
Well, in market structure, we're told that the Commodities and Futures Trading Commission needs legislative or statutory authorization to regulate or oversee the spot market for Bitcoin. So that is a feature that I think that would support the Bitcoin market in a more effective way. I don't think you can do it by regulation at the CFTC. And then the CFTC and our work over the past Congress, they need resources to be engaged in this business from the point of view of how their agency operates and the responsibility that the House and Senate may well be giving the CFTC for the digital asset space.
A strategic Bitcoin reserve. What are your thoughts on that, and specifically, what value do you think that would have for the U.S. Treasury?
You know, I remain interested in the idea, but not convinced that that's something that benefits the U.S. balance sheet per se.
What gives you pause?
I think I know very little about the legal process for adding something like that to the Treasury's balance sheet. I mean, you have many assets that have long-term permanent value that are not on the Fed's balance sheet. And so it's just an intriguing proposition to think that suddenly Bitcoin should be. So I think that's something that Congress will look at. I think you'll hear discussion about it. And I'm open-minded about the idea. I was with President Trump in Nashville when Senator Loomis floated the idea. And President Trump's view was, well, if we own Bitcoin in the federal government due to a legal action, we ought to hold on to it. So I think we'll see what the Treasury under the Trump administration has to say.
Well, so at that conference, you used the word stockpile. Do you feel any differently about a stockpile versus a reserve?
No, I don't. I just think it's typically in the federal government, we try to release things that we have back to the private sector for use and not pile them up on the balance sheets at the Fed or the Treasury. So that's why I think it's an idea that is be interesting to talk about.
Well, a lot of excitement around that idea, definitely, of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. There are, countries internationally who are thinking about it. We've started to see states, Pennsylvania and Texas, introduce legislation, to kind of be the leaders on that front. Is there anything that would make you start to feel the pressure to help the U.S. be first to do that?
Well, it's not about feeling the pressure. It's about doing the homework necessary statutorily and legally to find the benefit to the United States government for that, and hearing the views of the incoming administration will be helpful to that.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We're back again tomorrow. We'll see you then.